Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Randwick Local Planning Panel meeting. My name is Lindsay Fletcher. I'm the chair of the meeting today, and with me are Cara Creason on my left, an expert member of the panel, and on my immediate right, Oliver Klein, also an expert member, and on my far right, the community member, Mio Margaret Chow. I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the land of the Bidjigal and Gadigal people who occupied the Sydney coast, being the traditional owners. On behalf of the panel, I acknowledge and pay my respects to the elders past and present and the Aboriginal people in attendance today. Prior to the commencement of this meeting, all panel members were required to sign a declaration of interest in relation to each matter on the agenda. I can confirm that all declarations of interest have been received and that there were no conflicts identified, but I will, just for the record, ask members to again confirm they have no conflict of interest.
No conflict. No? No conflicts of interest.
No conflict of interest?
No conflict of interest.
So that's confirmed, and I too have no conflicts to declare. The signed declarations of interest will be available to view in any event through the Council's website by tomorrow afternoon. The first application, the first application before us today is that we have registered speakers for is Cowper Street, 79 to 81 Cowper Street. The only other registered speakers are on item number 9, 74 Dudley Street, Coogee. So moving straight along, I'll ask the first registered speaker, so it's an item, our item 8 of 2020 for 79 to 81 Cowper Street, Randwick. I have Miss Celia Carroll on behalf of the applicant. Celia? I've lost a page.
Hello,
Please
hi.
proceed.
I'm the architect for the applicant, and I'm here with Jeffrey Lewis, the owner. We really agree with the recommendations of the report and are here more to respond to questions if you have any from today's visit. But we support the report and the conditions attached to it.
Thank you. Do any members of the panel have questions? We did have the benefit of a site inspection earlier today, and that assisted us to understand the matter better. Was there any questions arising?
Sorry, I'll just make sure I've got the right item. I just had a question about, there's a proposed condition, condition 2B, which deals with fixed vertical or horizontal external louvers being provided to the glazed door openings, which are the master bedrooms.
Yes.
At the first floor level. And we've just had a look at, obviously, on site and also the section, and can't quite understand that there would be any overlooking impact there. So just perhaps your response on that condition.
Yes. I think it's a little bit over the top in that, yeah, to the north you're looking, there's a blank wall and you're really overlooking the roof of the property to the north. So I think the condition really responds to the objection received and council potentially trying to just satisfy the concerns there about overlooking. I mean, they do have the ribbon highlight windows that you probably saw, but it corresponds to a circulation space in the property at 1 Sydney Street. So, look, it would probably be our preferred response that condition wasn't there, but we're willing to accept it for the overall if council feels strongly about it.
In terms of your design at that level, I mean, we can kind of understand the level above, the balcony above, because you're up higher and you can overlook and then down into, potentially down into the courtyard, I guess. But at that level, just from a design perspective, what would you be seeing?
You're really, you're overlooking the roof of, so it's much more, I don't think there isn't really any privacy concerns at that point. So they feel a little bit superfluous, but I think it's really to respond to the objection. You've got quite a reasonable setback to the rear boundary, and there's also a level change. So the property is set down below. So you're overlooking purely the roof plane of the rear pavilion of that house.
Okay, so you'd have no objection if that condition was removed?
No, we would support its removal.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
So thank you for your
Wonderful.
submission.
Thank you. Thanks.
I should have said at the outside that we had 6 items listed for the agenda today, but in case there is somebody in the audience relating to the third item, 423 Gilderthorpe Avenue, Randwick, that matter has been withdrawn. The application's been withdrawn, so we won't be dealing with that today. And if you're here for that reason, you're welcome to stay, but there's no reason to stay. The second item on our agenda, and we have a number of registered speakers for this, is 74 Dudley Street in Coogee. Firstly, in accordance with the procedure of the panel, councillors that have nominated are invited to speak first, and we have Councillor Kathy Nielsen. Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you, panel. I'm relieved to see that the amended proposal has reduced the bulk and scale of the development, and I'm particularly pleased to see that the proposed roof terrace has been deleted from the application. The issue raised regarding the removal of sandstone wall and potential heritage significance of the wall, I respectfully disagree with Council's heritage planner, and I would urge the panel to recommend as a condition of consent reusing the sandstone from the existing wall on the garage level. I support the amendment 2A, that is that the first floor level northern balcony being reduced in depth on the eastern side in alignment with the western side, being set back a minimum of 6 metres from the front northern boundary, and the balcony roof also being reduced in alignment with the eastern side of the balcony as amended. I empathise with the loss of views that other neighbours have mentioned, so any consideration the panel can give to them, I would be supportive of. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any questions from the panel? No, thank you. I next have, it's the normal procedure of the panel to only allow one speaker in favour and one speaker against, but I have the discretion to allow more than that, and I have done so. I've allowed 2 speakers, 2 objectors to speak, for the reason that they are on opposite sides of the development, that is one on each side of the development. They have different issues to discuss, and I thought it was reasonable that we should hear from them. So the first speaker I have is Mr. John Maloney. We did have the opportunity to visit the property he represents earlier today. So, Mr. Maloney.
Good afternoon, and thank you, panel, for the opportunity to speak to this application. I represent the owners of units 1, 2 and 5, which are located on the eastern side of number 72 Dudley Street, and they are the units which are principally affected by the development. Randwick Council has conducted a very thorough analysis and assessment of DA 299. The owners, from the outset I should say this, the owners of number 72 are realistic and reluctantly support the findings and the recommendations to the panel by council. Notwithstanding, could I say it is the best of the worst in terms of outcome. My comments today only relate to the amended plans which have been produced for DA 299. There are multiple issues which adversely affect number 72. I won't go into them all because of the time constraints. All issues are, however, fully documented in the many objections which have been lodged with council. To summarise, the principal issues are: 1, the loss of direct sunshine, natural light and breezes; 2, loss of ocean and district views; 3, threat to the integrity of the building structure of number 72. Now, in terms of solar access, the DA will result in the loss of direct sunshine to all but the most northern windows of number 72. And that will therefore significantly impact on the quality of natural light and access to the prevailing breezes and the like which we get, which are generally southerly and nor'easterly in summer. Now, in terms of issue 2, views, the DA will totally eliminate the views, unfortunately, for unit number 2, which is at the rear of the property. To recover these views, it would really mean you need a one-storey development, and in these days I think it's pretty well accepted when you're zoned R3, there's a pretty good chance you're going to get a 2-storey development. So that's very, very unfortunate, the total loss of those views. In terms of the unit 1, which is located on the lower level as you come into the building, these views will be relatively unaffected by the development because they are already very much restrained by the existing property. In terms of unit number 5 bears the brunt of the impact on views. It currently enjoys the views for every eastern window. I won't go into the view quadrants specifically because panels had the opportunity to view those themselves. The most important view...
I'd ask you, I'll give you one further minute, but I would ask you to try and wrap up within that minute. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get the last bit of that.
I'd ask you to try and wrap up within the next minute if you can,
okay,
please.
right, very quickly. Yep. Unit 5 enjoys panoramic ocean views, no doubt about that from the forward part of the unit. And those views extend from Wedding Cake Island right through to the headland of North Bondi. The adjacent eastern window to the main one is much the same but a little bit less dramatic. The proposed masonry privacy screen of the development of number 74, if it was allowed, this would totally eliminate these prime views. The balance of the views from the remaining eastern windows will all be eliminated by the development. A partial solution to view loss for Unit 5 put forward by the owner and recommended by Council is removal of the privacy screen at the western end of the first floor balcony. At the very least, this will preserve the most valuable of the view corridors and support the concept of view sharing. Given the first floor balcony is open to passing pedestrian vehicle traffic on the street and is in full view of properties on the opposite side, that's not an unreasonable request considering the amount of view which will be lost.
Okay, I'll ask you to conclude there if I may, but are you happy to take questions from the panel?
Yes, I'll take questions, yeah.
Do we have any questions?
I don't have any. No.
Okay, it seems there's no further questions. I think you've covered the main issues.
There is just one little point, if I may, Chair.
Very quickly.
And that's the worry about the integrity of the building. It's an old building, built 1940, and the excavation will be sand. And
yes,
there is a worry that being as old as it is, the footings, supporting structures could be easily damaged. And so the owners require some verification, guarantee that there will be adequate protection as a result of the excavation.
thank you.
Thank you, panel.
Take those comments on board.
Yeah, very important, those last ones.
Thank you. The next speaker I have listed is Mr. Mark Swain, representing the objector from number 76, Dudley.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, panel. Thanks very much for the opportunity. Mark Swain, consultant planner, representing Mr. Summers and family, adjoining to the east at number 76 Dudley Street. As reiterated in our two submissions to council, we are requesting initially refusal of the application for the reasons that have been reiterated in the officer's report. We've highlighted the fact that the height, bulk and scale and privacy issues are principal. There is no FSR for this site. It is generally well accepted that the DCP controls take on a heightened importance in the absence of LEP controls. There's numerous non-compliances. They note them as being minimal and satisfactory. Our response, with the utmost respect, we're talking about departures in some cases of 30 millimetres, 30 centimetres, of equal insignificance is the ability to comply with those conditions. So we would be requesting that compliance be achieved. In terms of site coverage, we highlighted the fact that it didn't appear to comply. It does not include the front garages. If that is included as per the definition, it would take it up to at least 61%, well over the standard, and that contributes to the additional bulk and scale of the building. So as you have the benefit of our submissions in that regard, if the panel is of a mind to approve it, we'd turn ourselves to the requirements of condition 2 of the consent. For the objectors' purposes, conditions 2A and 2D are critical elements to ensure an element of privacy. Councillor reiterated the importance of those conditions in achieving a decent mutual level of visual privacy. So we would encourage the panel to resist strenuously any attempts which may come before coming from the applicant to modify those conditions of consent. A couple of other things of concern, the AC units on the ground floor, en suites of units 2 and 3, en suites 2 and 3 are directly opposite a bedroom on the objector's property. It's quite easy to remove those further south without any major, adverse impact on the applicant's intentions. We also would request that the, sorry, could I just have one more minute?
1 more minute, yes.
Thank you. That the contents of condition 2 be subjected to a sign-off. I'm not sure whether actually condition H is a typo. It says here amended drawings are to be submitted and approved. As they're worded, it appears to relate only to condition 2H, but I think it might be meaning to apply to them both. I have some recommended rewording of the conditions to ensure protection for the objectors on both sides, and would like to table these with the panel if I may. Finally, the owners at 76 obviously share the concern about the integrity of the building and are very concerned. There is a condition 3 which attempts to deal with that in terms of encroaching structures on adjoining properties. Once again, we have a amended wording recommending that there be a sign-off from council in regard to the perceived adequacy of that condition. So I'd like to table, if I may, the recommended amendments to the conditions of condition 2.
I'm happy for you to table it. Do you have an additional copy?
I have copies for each of you.
Could I ask that you give one copy to the next speaker, who's the applicant's representative, so that they're aware of what you're proposing? I'm sure we can deal with a single copy.
Not a problem.
Any questions of the speaker? Thank you, Mr. Swain.
No questions?
No questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
So you've given a copy to our next speaker is Ms. Margaret Roberts, Town Planner, on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
That's fine. I'm happy to give you, obviously, a few moments afterwards to go through that condition.
Yes.
I don't expect you to respond instantaneously, but if you can let through the staff, the staff know, let us know if there's any concern, and if so, what it is. Thank you.
Do you mind then if I give it to my colleague and
Not
the
at all.
architect to have
Not
a
at
read
all.
through.
So you've heard the concerns of previous speakers and obviously had the opportunity to review the report.
Yes, I have. Yes.
Over to you.
All right, thank you. What I would like to focus on today is addressing the actual recommended conditions of consent. I have acknowledged, both my client and myself have read through the report. We've gone through the objectors' concerns in detail. We've gone through the council officer's report, and I feel that that adequately addresses most of the points. What I would like to do, though, is if I could refer the panel to the recommended conditions, primarily condition number 2, and if I can go through in order of those conditions. So condition 2A,
Yes.
it asks for the reduction of the front balcony at first floor level. What we want to put forward is when the original application was submitted, the balcony came substantially forward of that line. The curve also was closer to the property at number 72. When the council officers wrote to us requesting amendments, we made changes that we felt addressed those concerns from the neighbours at number 72. We feel that the design of the balcony of the first floor terrace is adequate. It's actually set behind the existing building line of the dwelling. The curve is now located on the property closer to number 74. So the view lines towards 76. The water, sorry, 76. So the view lines are still available down towards the water. What I would like to say is that the height poles that have been erected show the level of the first floor slab. I don't believe that there is, that the position of that slab will affect any views from either the ground floor or the first floor of the front units at number 72. This then also leads me into condition 2B, which is in relation to removing that privacy screen wall.
Yes.
The purpose of putting that privacy screen in that position is so that my client can get privacy to the living room at first floor level. So if that was to be removed, we would then not have privacy to our dwelling. There seems a contradiction in the council officer's report where our privacy does not seem to be important. However, the privacy of the adjoining property at number 76 is given a lot of weight. I don't believe that the location of that privacy wall will have an impact on views. What I would like to say is that we were not given an opportunity by the council officer to prepare any view analysis of the impact of that first floor balcony or that privacy screen wall. So if there is a concern, we would definitely like to address that. We would like to be afforded the opportunity, which we were not. If I can go on.
I'll ask you to do so within
Yes.
a moment or two.
Okay.
We are keen to hear from you about these conditions. So.
Okay. All right, condition 2C. We're not contesting this condition. We just wanted to point out that the reason that we put the privacy measures in for that internal courtyard was to protect some views. I know the council officer has a concern with the bulk and mass of that elevation and have asked for that privacy screen to be removed. Again, we don't have an objection, but the point of the design was to ensure privacy to that internal courtyard on that side elevation. Okay. Condition 2D, that relates to reducing the level of the terrace in the front.
Yep.
That will severely compromise the actual use of the double garage that we've proposed. Because of the vehicle, which is a four-wheel drive SUV with a storage compartment on top, once we factor in the slab width, the roller door coming in and coming up into the garage, into the roof area, we feel that that reduction by 400 mils, it effectively means that my client cannot park his vehicle in that garage. So we would ask the panel to reconsider that condition. I know I've run out of time, but that also links to the level of that courtyard. Going out on site, I hope the panel appreciated that I don't believe there's any privacy impacts to the property at number 76, given the existing vegetation that is on that adjoining property. The opportunities for overlooking are nil, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Please.
There is one more condition, 2F, regarding the louvers. Council has asked that the louvers be fixed. We ask that they still be operable louvers, but to an angle of a maximum of 70 degrees, and that's from north to west. So they'll pretty much still be in line with the position of the angles drawn on the plans, but it will allow my client to be able to close those louvers at night time when lights are on to increase privacy into his property.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Were they the only matters you wish to raise with us?
That is, yes.
Okay. Panel members, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
And as I said, if you could, through the staff, perhaps give us feedback on those suggested changes to the conditions if you have any comments, or if you don't have any comments.
Okay.
That would be appreciated. As I indicated, there's in fact 5 items before us, but we have no registered speakers on any of the other items. So that effectively concludes the public component of this meeting. We've now heard from all of the registered speakers, and in accordance with the panel guidelines adopted by the Council in December 2018, the public meeting will now be closed and the panel will move to another room and deliberate and vote on each of the 5 items that are before us. We won't return to the council chambers today. The outcomes from voting and determination will be made available through the council's website, either late tonight or certainly by tomorrow. And an audio recording of the public meeting will also be made available through the council website. With that, I thank you all for your attendance and participation and declare the meeting closed.